AFA Today.
And we welcome you to AFA Today. Kevin McCullough is my name, and we are coming to you on location, on assignment from Southern California today, and not in our normal AFA Today studios in New York City. So thank you for those of you that are joining us, and please tell your friends every single day at 1 Eastern, 12 Central, 10 Pacific. We are here on the AFA channel for television and video, and then on AFR radio, AFR Talk Radio. And the goal is real simple. We want to keep you up to date on what's going on, alert you to any specific things that you might need to know about from a family values-oriented perspective, and then take your calls about all of it. 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. That we've not talked about the Zimmerman trial in a couple of days, and I could spend the entire day talking about it. But there's also a very intriguing story about school lunches, and I'm kind of torn between which one to really spend the majority of the time talking about. So maybe your calls will lead us on all of this. But you heard in the American Family News update there at the top of the hour that the closing arguments have been made, and this is the process by which we will see in the George Zimmerman trial what turns out to be the end result. The interesting thing about this, and I've posted a lot about this story on Facebook in recent days, is that you have a lot of influences at play here that people are forming opinions about. But very few of the opinions tend to be centered on anything related to fact in the case. In fact, the Zimmerman trial is reminding me a lot of the abortion protests in Austin, Texas from this perspective. You have people down there implying that if you stop allowing legal abortion after the 20-week mark for on-demand, convenience-based reasons. In other words, we're not talking about cases by which rape, incest, or truly the life of the mother are at stake. And just as a reminder, those instances account for less than 1% of all abortions performed. So you're talking about infinitesimal numbers compared to the majority of why abortions are performed. But this piece of legislation in Austin, it only does a couple of things. It secures the life of the mother and the life of the child from 20 weeks on, and it secures the health of the mother in any surgical facility. So you can't have Kermit Gosnells opening up clinics in Texas, stomping around in blood and guck and mess and all kinds of stuff, and keeping body parts in jars and all the other demonic, horrific, grotesque things that tend to go on in late-term abortion facilities. So the truly interesting thing about this is that you have all of these protesters coming in from everywhere that have absolutely no idea what's in the bill. And they're out there protesting coat hanger abortions and women being forced back to the back alleys for babies they don't want, et cetera, et cetera. By the way, you haven't noticed the simultaneous coverage of a story, except by my friend Ed Morrissey over at hotair.com, in which there is this Downs baby, that there's this huge demand for people to try to adopt. I mean, there's a lot of different people that are wanting to adopt this child that would be seen as defective in the minds of abortionists. Because if your baby has Downs in the mind of an abortionist, because it will require more of you, because it will have a greater impact in terms of your lifestyle and how you're allowed to have your freedom and whatever other laughable excuses that the abortionists give for people to kill children, this baby is kind of running the opposite. That there is actually a number of families that want to love this child, and what we're seeing is that as people truly understand and learn what the account of abortion looks like, there are more and more people that are saying, I just am uncomfortable with that, and I can't do this. Jenna Fisher, the actress from the TV show called The Office, you may know who she is. She actually went to Twitter yesterday and she challenged people to do something that I have not heard any other person in Hollywood do. She said, before you form an opinion about the Texas legislation, go read the bill. And she truly didn't weigh in on it until way, 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 way down the conversation. She probably had sent, 40 or 50 tweets by that point. But she said, read the bill in its entirety. Make sure that you read the bill, because reading the bill is quite important to understanding how to have an opinion about this bill. Now, in the process of walking through that process, she read the bill and she learned things about it that she had not known. And I don't know if I couldn't tell from her final response if she was totally for the bill or maybe slightly against it, but she definitely had a difference of opinion about it because she had actually read the legislation, something that our Congress won't even do when they pass things like Obamacare. So here's how the two stories remind me of something. People have all these opinions about the abortion legislation in Austin. They have all these opinions about the George Zimmerman trial. But very few of the opinions that people are bouncing around on Facebook and yapping about on talk radio, et cetera, very few of them are rooted in truth. Very few of them are rooted in the facts. And that's why some of the peripheral stories about the Zimmerman trial over the last couple of days have truly been important. The behavior of the judge in the trial has been appalling. She has literally dressed down the defense attorneys in ways I've never witnessed any judge doing, telling them they're not even allowed to object to her trying to interrogate their client and demanding an answer of him. They're his paid representatives. He doesn't have to testify to squat. But she just went on this rampage a couple of days ago, just asking him question after question after question, and the attorneys, Judge, we object. You can't do that. And she threatened the judges. So the behavior of she threatened the attorneys. The behavior of the judge has been a little loopy. We also learned a couple of days ago, and the folks at Judicial Watch uncovered this. They had filed a Freedom of Information Act because they thought something might be a little weird about the Justice Department, the DOJ, the Eric Holder Group, and their participation in what appeared to be Trayvon Martin rallies that happened over the last year. And what they said was, their public explanation before the FOIA documents were revealed were, we wanted to be down there to mediate any concerns and make sure that, things didn't get out of hand and so forth. When the FOIA documents were opened up, the Freedom of Information Act documents actually came to light. Judicial Watch reported that the Department of Justice actually has been funding the pro-Trayvon narrative, in many of these cases, paying money towards the rallies, towards sponsorship, and taking a proactive role in siding with one party in this criminal judicial matter that doesn't concern the Department of Justice, the Department of Justice has no jurisdiction over this. But they were pumping money and ginning up race-based protests. There was one other thing we found out. And some of us knew this, that were watching the details of the case back when Zimmerman was arrested. But there were political officials, some were thought to be of the administration itself, that were putting so much pressure on the police department in Sanford. The former police commissioner, Bill Lee, came out 2 days ago to CNN and said, you know what, I got to tell you what happened. When we got there that night, we saw all the evidence that was there. We didn't find enough evidence on the scene to make an arrest. It didn't. The evidence that was there didn't justify an arrest. And for the next 6 months, his office was bombarded daily, and sometimes by very high-profile politicians, saying, "Just get the arrest. Just arrest him. All you got to do is arrest him. We don't care if he goes to jail or not. This is a political thing. You got to get this guy arrested." His exact quote on CNN actually went something like this. He said, there was pressure applied, City manager asked me several times during the process, well, can an arrest be made now? And I think that was just from not understanding the process, the criminal justice process. And one of the city commissioners came to me on 2 different occasions and say, all they want is an arrest. And I explained to them, well, you just can't do that, You have to have probable cause to arrest somebody. And it was related to me that they just wanted an arrest, that they didn't care if it got dismissed later. And you just don't do that. Turns out Bill Lee, the former Sanford, Florida police commissioner, police chief, it also happens to be a born-again Christian, a strong man of faith, and he believes that you don't accuse people of something when it's clear that they didn't do it. And he said, he was basically pushed out of his job. He was because he refused to give in on principle to this political maelstrom that was just coming at him nonstop. Friends, this is what I'm talking about. If we want to be truly people that are impacting our world, we can't be like everybody else that knows absolutely zero about the facts and then runs around repeating the talking points and the opinions that you may hear on television as though they are, in fact, some sort of fact. You gotta think clearly. We have to obliterate confusion. It is really important that we actually go so far as to have knowledge and to live as clear thinkers. And that's what Kevin McCullough wants to try to encourage you to do every day. Now, over on onenewsnow.com, there's a new poll question up, and it ties into the George Zimmerman case. OneNewsNow.com has the new polling question: who should ultimately take the blame for the Department of Justice funds being used for anti-George Zimmerman rallies and meetings? The director of the DOJ's Service Relations, Attorney General Holder, or the President of the United States? You remember, he weighed in on the case long before there was any evidence submitted in the case, and he was declaring guilt before anybody could respond to it. Friends, there was such a media coordination and manipulation of the facts in the Zimmerman trial. I honestly believe that if there are violent outbreaks following the Zimmerman verdict, you have the president, the Department of Justice, the city commissioner, and a whole lot of, quote, civil rights leaders that even knew less about the case than the officials that did a lot of ginning up and a lot of deception, a lot of lying to people that you can point to and blame for. If justice works, then those that are truly innocent should be innocent. And if justice works, then those that are guilty should go to jail. And if a country that is ruled and governed by the rule of law is honestly what that is, then we should expect that jury will come to the right conclusion based on the evidence in front of them, based on the facts that they have been given. Both attorneys in their closing arguments said to the jury, you will be given every piece of law that you can examine under these circumstances and all of the evidence that has been submitted. Those jury members now not only hold the outcome of George Zimmerman in their hands, but potentially communities because of the riots that some are fearing and expecting if the verdict goes one way or the other. I'm Kevin McCullough. We'll take your calls next. 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. Kevin McCullough, AFA Today, continuing from our special location in Southern California today. On the other side of this break.